What bike do I need? How many kilometers? What tools do I need? How do you find a camp spot? And how much water do you carry? We're gonna talk about all this and even more in just a couple of seconds. Hello and welcome. I'm Lara, aka Giant Cheerio. I traveled all the way from Germany to India with my beloved bicycle. I'm in India right now, namaste, but that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how to start bikepacking or bike touring. I started this adventure from scratch 3 years ago. There are a couple of things I wish I knew earlier, but I didn't, obviously. And when I started, I didn't like cycling that much. I didn't have any clue of bicycles or equipment or basically I didn't know anything. Good qualifications for this job, I guess. But actually that's what brings me to the first thing I want to talk about. Might sound a little weird, but the first thing is what you don't need to start bikepacking. Then second thing is what you really don't need to know for bikepacking or bike touring. Then I would like to give some suggestions of stuff that I think is useful, and in the end I will answer some frequently asked questions when it comes to starting into your first bikepacking adventure or begin with bike touring. So, what you don't need. I want to start with this picture because this shows me on my very first day back in 2021 when I started my cycling journey from Germany to Spain. It's a pretty fancy bike. I have pannier bags and I have a saddlebag. Oh yeah, and the frame bag, and that's basically it. Sure, you can already see some of the first mistakes that I made. The first thing I would definitely recommend is don't spend too much time on bicycle research. When it's your first time bikepacking or bike touring, I wouldn't recommend to buy a new bike. I mean, I had a very fancy bike, but honestly, I spent so many hours and so much time doing researches on bicycle, I don't even had any clue. In the end, I had a very nice bike, but I didn't even know what I was looking for because I didn't have any clue. As I said, I didn't know anything, but I did a lot of research and all I saw on Instagram and YouTube were these nice looking fancy bicycles, and I thought, oh my god, I can't start any trip without having a very, very good bicycle. Go with the bicycle you already have. And when you try new things, you don't need fancy new equipment. Like, you don't need the best stuff. You should just go and try. When you go on your first trip or your first small tour, you will figure out what you really need, like what your bicycle has to be like. And also, I would recommend to just go with the stuff you already own. By saying that, I mean that there are very cool and nice and fancy gadgets, and I do have many gadgets by now. And yes, I do own my second fancy bikepacking or bike touring bike. That's just what I wanted to say. Like, if you find out that this is something for you and you really want to go for it, then you can spend all the money you want. I mean, you can also spend all the money you want before. When you know what you want to get and then you get it, you will be much more happy and satisfied than just picking a bike at the beginning just because it's expensive and looks fancy. So please don't spend a lot of money before your first tour because you don't know what you want, you don't know what you need, you don't know which gadget suits your needs. Go with your old shirt, your old trousers, go with what you have, and you will find out on your first tour what you really need. There are a couple of things that I think are necessary or useful for a first trip. I will talk about that in a couple of minutes. Another thing I would like to say a couple of words is the knowledge about bicycles. You don't need to know anything. Most of the time, people don't start their first cycling or bikepacking adventure in the Sahara or in the jungle where there is nobody that can help. And what I've learned from the past 3 years is that you get help everywhere in the world, like seriously. In every country, I found a bike shop, I found people that had more knowledge than I had. But of course, you should know some things when you are on your journey, but all these things, they just come by themselves, learning by doing. When I first started, and this is no joke, I didn't know how to change a tire. Like I didn't know how to fix a flat tire. So I was just standing next to the road, opened YouTube, and yeah, watched some DIY. Yeah, that's how I started gaining my knowledge. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything. Just go, just leave, and along the way you will learn a lot. And in the end, you have all the knowledge, and it just came piece by piece and bit by bit during the journey. After talking about all the stuff you don't need for your first bikepacking or bike touring trip, I want to give some recommendations or some tips that I think are useful. The first thing that's very important for me is the saddle. Seriously, if you have the spare money and the time, get yourself a proper saddle and get a bike fitting. The worst thing is having problems while sitting on your bicycle and then you have to stop. If you're happy with your saddle, like never change a winning system, then just leave it as it is. Sometimes you need a couple of days or weeks to get used to the movement and to get used to cycling. But if you're in pain, then you will not get used to sitting on a saddle that causes pain. So yeah, just get a proper saddle. Then one more thing I definitely recommend is to buy high quality panniers or high quality bicycle bags if you can afford it. When I started, I did not use Ortlieb. I used some other brand. This brand I'm pretty sure is fine for I don't know, daily use and go grocery shopping or whatever, but it was definitely not made for a bike touring trip. And after 4 weeks, these bags started to fall apart. Spend the money on high quality bags. And if you just find out that bike touring or bikepacking is not your thing, you can always resell it. The bikepacking and bike touring stuff is booming these days, and you can easily sell your bags that you don't want to use anymore. Another thing I would recommend taking with you is a power bank. Yeah, you can always recharge it wherever you take a break, like gas stations, cafes, whatever. This is your backup phone battery, which is pretty handy. Next thing I think is very useful is a bike lock. I'm using this, some sort of cable and a lock, so it's not a real bike lock. But for me, that's more than enough, and I don't want to carry a super heavy bicycle lock. I spend most of the time with my bicycle, and the only time I leave the bicycle unattended is when I go grocery shopping. Or yeah, these are just my thoughts, but if someone wants to steal your bicycle, like if someone really wants to have it, it doesn't matter what kind of lock you have. And for me, this is just a little security, and yeah, that's what I use. Another thing I'd say you need is good sleeping equipment. This is also something I would spend more money on if you have it for high quality sleeping equipment. For example, the right sleeping bag. Please get a proper one. Like if you plan to cycle in autumn or winter, then please get one that is warm enough for cold nights. And also like your air mattress. There are cheap air mattresses and they are pretty comfy, but when it comes to cold weather, they might not be the right choice. There are R values. Based on these values, you can see whether this air mattress is good for summer or winter or autumn or whatever. I'd really recommend to have a good sleep, a good night, and sleep like a prince or a princess. Another small thing, which can get quite expensive, unfortunately, is a rainproof. I started with a 10 euros Decathlon rain jacket, and this rain jacket was fine for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I was soaked in water. But once again, everything is possible. If you don't mind getting wet when it rains, then just go for it. And you can also just use a trash bag, because yeah, go and see how you feel when you sit in your tent and everything is wet, and done that, been there. I don't want it anymore. I'm I'm too old for this. So then the last thing is about tools. So there are some tools I'd recommend taking with you, and of course it's a pump. You will have flat tires, I'm pretty sure. Tire levers, you will need that, as well as inner tubes. If you don't know how all these things work, don't worry. As I said, you just stand next to the road and you will watch a YouTube DIY, and after that you'll be fine. Get a multi-tool. There you have all the tools you might need. Just put it in your pocket, and when there is an issue, and again, you stand next to the road, you Google how to do blah, 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 then you at least have your multi-tool and you have something to start working with. Two more things. I didn't have it when I started, very important, and it's a chain lock and a spare derailleur. Before coming to an end, I also want to answer some frequently asked questions. So many people don't know how much water to take with them. I have water bottles, like 1, 2, 3. These are 4 liters. I refill multiple times during the day. And before I search for my camp spot, I refill this. This is a 4-liter water bag. Then that's 8 liters to cook with, to brush your teeth, to, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Like each night I also do a quick wash. And 8 liters are enough also for the morning coffee. And I need my morning coffee. I need 2 or 3 or 4 morning coffees, and 8 liters are more than enough for this. Then how to find a camp spot. I search my camp spots sometimes on Google Maps. I use Google Maps satellite. Then I can just check the area and see from above if there's a good camp spot. Also, there are many questions about safety and wild camping. I already have another video, I'm gonna link it up here, where I was talking about wild camping. Some sentences about the route and navigation. I always navigate with Komoot. That's an application for hiking, cycling. I guess that's it. It's pretty easy to use, and I would always recommend using Komoot. And then this is the most frequently asked question, seriously, and it is how many kilometers do you manage during a day, or like what's your daily goal of kilometers? And yeah, I always have to laugh because when you're on a bikepacking or bike touring trip, like most of the time, this is not a challenge. I mean, of course, you can challenge yourself for a couple of days or for a week or for 2 weeks. And I even know people who challenged themselves for like 6 months and rode more than 100 kilometers each and every day. But honestly, it doesn't matter how many kilometers I do. Sometimes 0, sometimes 50, sometimes 100. And it always depends, like, how do you feel on this day? What's the elevation profile, and what's the wind? Like sometimes you have heaps of headwinds, and then like with all your bags and all your luggage, you're just a snail. Yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. There is not a specific amount of kilometers that you have to cycle, and there's nothing wrong with a challenge from time to time, or if you really feel like, oh, I want to know where my limits are. In general, just cycle as many kilometers as you want. And if your friend or neighbor cycles and they're like, oh, when I cycle at least 100 or 80 or whatever, then yeah, let them do so, it's fine. But if you just want to cycle 30 or 20 or 10 or 5, then go for it. Yep, I think that's all I wanted to say. If you have any more questions, topic suggestions, just let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this video. And if you like this video, you can give me a thumbs up and subscribe my channel. I guess I see you next time. Cheerio, goodbye, salut, and adios.